Good morning, everyone. This is our first video of biology of your class. Okay, so as in yesterday class, we have started our chapter 6 life processes. So I will revise your concepts of yesterday class for those students who have missed the class yesterday. Before beginning our chapter, I would like to tell you all that what biology is. Actually, biology is study of life, that is about living beings, or you can say living organisms. We study about living organisms in the branch of science that is biology. So let us learn about life processes. That is chapter number 6 in your book. This is the first page of chapter 6 life processes in your book. You can easily read it from there. And today we are going to start with the introduction of this chapter. Before beginning, I would like to tell you the difference between what is alive and what is not alive. Okay. So generally, alive things are known as living things, or sometimes they are also called as living beings, whereas those things which are not alive are known as non-living things. Okay, so what is the difference between them? That living things can move on their own, whereas non-living things cannot move on their own. Second point, they can grow with time, whereas non-living things do not grow with time. Living things need air to breathe, whereas non-living things do not need air to breathe. They never breathe actually. Living things need food to grow, and non-living things do not need any food. Living things feel changes around them, whereas non-living cannot. Living things reproduce, they generally give rise to the offspring that is similar to itself. Okay, but in case of non-living things, they do not reproduce. Few examples of living things are human beings, plants, and animals. And in case of non-living things, we have books, pencil, bat, etc. Now, what are living beings and what are non-living beings? Actually, the words are same. There's not a big difference between a living being and a living thing. Okay, don't get confused. If it is living being, that means it's a living thing only. Okay. So what are living beings? Living being is all that creature or organism composed of cells, the basic unit of life. You might have started in your previous class that the basic unit of our body or living organism is cell. So living being is all that creature or organism composed of cells whose most outstanding characteristics are that they are born from another similar being and they grow or develop, they can reproduce and then die. You can see in this picture, the living things are like a boy, girl, tree, animal. Okay. Now, what are non-living beings? Everything that does not meet the requirements of life is considered as a non-living or inanimate or inert being. Natural objects and artificial objects are non-living beings. Now, what are these natural non-living objects that are created by physical and chemical forces of nature? As you see, rocks, clouds, oceans, mountains, they all are natural non-living objects. Now, the artificial non-living objects are those creations of human beings, such as mobiles, bridges, roads, dishes, and clothes. You can see in the picture again that non-living things are a fan, a table fan is there, house is there, car is there, and a stone is there. Now, out of these four class, Three are the artificial non-living objects, and one of them is natural. So rock is the natural non-living object, whereas a table fan, house, and a car are artificial non-living objects as they are created by human beings. So yeah, criteria for alive. What is the basic criteria that something is alive? So the most important criteria to decide whether something is alive is movement. Okay, where there is movement, there is a life. All living things move without the help of any external help. Some movements are easily visible, like movements of body parts. You can easily see how your leg move, how your hand move, okay? But some movements are not easily visible, like molecular movements. Now, the movements in cells and tissues are necessary for all life processes. Here in the picture, a bird is flying. That is a movement, but that is a visible movement. Okay. A bird is there, a fish is there, and whenever these organisms move, they are easily visible. But in two pictures here, there are small round molecules. When they move, we cannot detect them with our naked eyes. To detect the motion of molecules, we need microscope in biology. Now in biology, we will study the structure of plant cell, animal cell, etc. So for that, we have to look through microscope. Okay. So always remember class that criteria for alive is movement, and not only simple movement but the molecular movement in cells and tissues is very important for all life processes. Now we will move towards definition of life processes. So it is an easy definition for you all. But at your level, you do not have to write this much simple because now you are in your 10th class, a board class, and you have to write your answers in an impressive way. So this is just for your understanding that what are life processes. Definition I will tell you in next slides. So various functions carried out by living beings which are necessary to maintain and continue life are known as life processes. Means living beings perform many functions without which they cannot be a living. They cannot continue their life. So those processes are known as life processes. If we talk about examples of processes in living beings, then first one is nutrition, as we all require food and the digestion, excretion, everything. Respiration is the process of taking oxygen and giving away carbon dioxide in case of human beings. Then transportation of substances is the function of circulatory system. Excretion is done for the removal of toxic substances from our body. Movement is either voluntary or involuntary movement. Reproduction means the ability to produce the offspring similar to oneself is known as reproduction. So these are some of the basic life processes. And here you can see the picture. The life processes are divided with in the first picture, transportation is through blood. So here a segment of blood is shown. Second, respiration is done through lungs. So lungs picture is there, or we can say respiratory system is there. In excretion, you can see there is the intestine is shown. And in case of reproduction, these are the male and female reproductive eggs or cells, you can say. And in case of metabolism, digestive system is there, and nutrition, there are various types of nutrients and those are included in nutrition part. So always remember to highlight your answers with such type of pictures. You can see the second picture. It is very easy to draw in your exam. So whenever if somebody asks you to write about life processes, it's very easy to draw such type of picture with your answer, and it's a mark scoring way. Okay, because examiner do not want to read paragraphs in your exam paper. He or she is interested if you highlight the important things and then you write something. Okay, so you can easily draw this picture. Here we have written life processes in center and many processes are shown surrounding it with the help of arrows. Okay, now exact definition of life processes or the meaning of life processes. The word life processes means the processes take place in the human body which are needed for the existence of life on earth. Means those processes without which life is impossible are known as life processes. Example again, digestion, respiration, excretion, reproduction, etc. as I've explained you earlier. After this, you all are well aware from your previous class that there are unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms in living beings. So first, if I talk about unicellular organisms, they are simple organisms. Means they consist of a single cell. And each cell or organism is a complete unit of life. They are able to carry out all living processes. Here diagram is showing some unicellular organism, that is amoeba is there, paramecium is there. Okay, so these are your unicellular organisms. Uni means one and cellular means cell. So those which have single cell are known as unicellular. And now the single cell only perform every function. Single cell will eat, single cell will digest, that will excrete, that will respire, that will reproduce. Everything is done by that single cell. But when we talk about multicellular organisms, then cells, there are many cells first of all. You can see multi means many and cellular means cell. So they have many cells and all the cells are not in direct contact with the environment. So in that case, diffusion is insufficient and will not meet the requirements of all the cells. In case of unicellular, there was a diffusion process, that means movement of substance from high concentration to low concentration. But in case of multicellular, this thing is not possible because their requirements are more. And secondly, their body is not in direct contact with environment. Here in the picture, you can see multicellular organisms. There are multicellular animals and multicellular plants. Rabbit is there, fish is there, vulture is there, hydra is there. And in case of multicellular plants, you can see some plants here. After this, we will continue with our diffusion. Now, what actually diffusion is? Molecules will always move down the concentration difference towards areas of lesser concentration. As you can see, when you take a glass of water and you add a food coloring into it, it spreads out easily and slowly. Or whenever you spray the air freshener in your room, it also spread in the entire room after some time. So that is because of the process of diffusion. Here's a video for you to clear about diffusion.
Diffusion
Watch it
is the
carefully.
net movement of a substance from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. Let's use this sugar cube and beaker of water as an example. When the sugar cube is dropped into water, it begins to dissolve. The sugar molecules in the cube move from an area of high concentration to areas of lower concentration until the molecules are evenly distributed. This type of motion is known as diffusion.
Okay, so this was diffusion. I hope you all are clear about it from the video. Now, in case of living organisms, the simplest way to transport substances is by the means of diffusion. All the organisms use diffusion to transport large volume of substances such as gases as well as metabolic waste products. Okay, these are transported due to diffusion. Now, examples are amoeba, which is a unicellular organism. It transport by diffusion is all that is needed. In case of amoeba, there is a diffusion of objects, diffusion of every need.